Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about diagnostic technology. So last video, we talked about prevention. And to put in context, it was prevention of diseases that are associated with our transition away from being hunter-gatherers to living sedentary and high population density lifestyles. Uh, in this video, we're going to also deal with, I want to kind of intro and conclude with this idea. The technologies that we're going to deal with, diagnostic technologies, are things that you are familiar with. And they're just part of our normal life. But it's important to remember they are part of our normal life because we as a species have put ourselves into a relatively unhealthy social context. It's because of that we need these diagnostic technologies. So, I'm going to talk about diagnostic technologies in two different settings. First of all, in a professional setting, which is what you think about, and what up until the last 10, 20 years was exclusively where you went to get things diagnosed. Things like, and I'm not going to test you on this, but I just want to kind of get you the kind of the rundown of what we're talking about here. So imaging technologies like X-rays and MRIs and ultrasounds, that. Endoscopy, which is like taking a scope and putting it inside your body to look around. Pathology, or pathology diagnosis, so taking a sample, like a biopsy. Genomics, which is a new technology, but looking at our genes and seeing if it looks like we have genetic susceptibility to a particular disease. And then physiological measurements of heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, that type of thing. Since we moved into, really this is mostly since industrialization, but really we can think about this all going back just with less refinement to the agricultural revolution. It's generally speaking been, let's stick with industrial in a professional setting. But over the last, since the internet, we've had an increase in the idea or the possibility of diagnostic technologies being deployed in private settings. So things like a Fitbit, or as our reading suggested, cell phones. The ability of us to have on us at all times technology that is monitoring us and is prepared to diagnose any particular problems that we might have. So we're going to have pros and cons for both of these. The general pro for all of this is it helps us know what's going on. And again, there's no ambiguity about this. These things are helpful. The point I want to make again is that these things are helpful because we've put ourselves into an unhealthy context. That's it. On the con side, there are three that I want to deal with. First of all, health risks. Not with all things. I mean, not necessarily with, like a doctor putting a stethoscope on your chest. There's no real health risk with that. But with some of the imaging technologies that we have, there is the possibility of ionizing radiation, which can do damage to cells and can possibly create cancer. It's a side effect, but it's worth mentioning. In America in particular, there's a huge expense because we are a for-profit healthcare system. I don't want to get off on too long of a rant about this, but for example, in 2017, 2018, which is the year that I found a cross-national comparison for this, an MRI cost $1,430 in the United States, which, because we don't comparison shop from country to country, is the price that you and your insurance would pay for that, if your insurance covers it. In the Netherlands, that same MRI would cost $190, so about 1/8 of what it would cost here. The reason for this is that though we have all lived in America, and I'm not going to tell you what our healthcare system should be, although I would suggest to you that you should do a little bit of thinking about this when it comes time for elections, to see because healthcare is a big expense for people, to see what kind of healthcare systems are out there. The system that we have, which is a pay-as-you-go, private insurance, mostly private insurance healthcare system, it's a capitalist system that makes money by doctors charging more and by insurance companies covering less. That's not the way that every country, well, really almost any industrialized country does healthcare. There are a lot of different ways that it can be done. And it's not my place to tell you which one is the best, but I would suggest you take a look at healthcare systems in different countries to see what are ways that healthcare costs are minimized compared to what they are in America. It's expensive here. The last con is privacy, and our reading talked a little bit about this, so I'm going to just address it briefly. But the data that your wearable technology collects, that data doesn't stay with you. That data goes to a corporation. Corporations are for-profit entities. They exist to make money. And they will make money by selling you the device, but also by collecting information and selling that information to companies that think that they could profit off of it. So when we talked about surveillance capitalism, we talked about the fact that that increasingly the behavioral surplus that humans generate while interacting on the internet, in this case on the internet by wearing a Fitbit or having your phone that has an app that's health oriented, that information can be used by other corporations. They can, in the case of surveillance capitalism, potentially engage in behavior modification, move you, either present you with ads that you may not have been thinking about, but based on your healthcare portfolio that they've collected, get you thinking about, well, maybe I should spend money on this. They can also move you from one place to another, like we talked about with surveillance capitalism, and put you in a position where something that you may not have thought about purchasing suddenly appears right in front of you. So that idea of privacy and what Shoshana Zuboff, the author of Surveillance Capitalism, talked about, not just your privacy, but your autonomy, is potentially compromised by these wearables. Now, there is a huge upside to this, as I think our reading talked about. If you coordinate, if every person is constantly being monitored, it sounds kind of dystopian, but it also prevents pandemics from ever happening, because the people who show signs of a disease can quickly be determined and isolated and quarantined so that it doesn't spread. The downside of it is that we live in a society that is dominated by for-profit corporations, and that they are happy to prevent pandemics to the extent that it makes them money, but they are also, while a pandemic is not being prevented, while that's not being addressed, they still need to make money. And to the extent that they can collect your information and make money off of it, that's something that they are going to fight for the right to do. Okay, to finally, yeah, we're almost done with this video already. To reiterate, all of this diagnostic technology pros and cons exist because we live in an unhealthy social context, a potentially unhealthy social context. Living around this many people, living around this many animals in terms of livestock, the way that we factory farm them creates a lot of disease. These diagnostic technologies are important to keep us healthy, but it's keeping us healthy to keep pace with our hunter-gatherer ancestors who, again, if they made it out of childhood, we're likely to live as long as we live right now. It's important for us to revisit that point. All right, that's it for diagnostic technologies. In the next video, we're going to look at treatment technologies. I'll see you then.